Welcome to the fourth edition of the Joe Berry Award podcast series. These podcasts, presented by former winners of the Joe Berry Award and award sponsors, are designed to provide insight into the retail market during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. Our presenters today are Joe Berry winners Alec Renehan and Patricio Servat, along with Bruno Maurel, Executive Chairman Creative Activation, discussing sustainability and AI in a post-COVID market. Alec won the 2019 Joe Berry Award as Coles Sustainability Project Manager. Alec's winning presentation focused on managing the last mile. Patricio won the award this year with his presentation on automation in the supply chain. These podcasts are designed to provide you with a preview of your 2021 award topics. Final topics will be posted on opening day, November 1st, 2020, on Facebook and the joeberryaward.com.au website. 2021 will be the 35th presentation of this unique award, which will for the first time be promoted globally. The Joe Berry Award podcast will continue in a series of 8 with the objective of getting you involved and ready to register in November. The Joe Berry Award provides a unique level of exposure for you and your career aspirations. We hope you're enjoying the podcasts. While sustainability and artificial intelligence remain key strategies for retailers and suppliers, COVID has, to some extent, moved them off the front page. During lockdowns, movement restrictions, and changed buying habits, the marketplace dynamics are much different. Will they remain changed, or will they rebound to previous positions? Alec, sustainability is a very wide subject touching on all parts of the retail supply chain. Before COVID, where was sustainability on the priority chart?
Yeah, it is a big topic. And first of all, thanks for having us, Keith. I think this is a great initiative that the Joe Berry Award's doing. Sustainability was fast rising up most retailers' priority list. Customers were asking more questions about it. Investors were asking more questions about it. And it was clear that it was becoming more of a priority. COVID has changed that. It's definitely a second order priority to health and safety and making sure we're getting, food and supplies to communities that need it. And I think we're seeing some short-term effects, both positive and negative. And then there are some longer-term trends in the sustainability space that I think are particularly interesting to watch. So if we start with the shorter-term trends, that will likely alleviate once hopefully a vaccine is found. I think we're seeing, a reduction in work travel and that the commensurate reduction in greenhouse emissions, which is positive for sustainability. But then at the same time, we're seeing a lot more packaging and a lot more waste being created. Speaking, as a food retailer at Coles, everything that was getting taken out of packaging is now being put back into packaging for, safety concerns. And then we're also seeing, the increased cleaning, increased use of masks is creating a lot more waste as well. So I think there are some short-term disruptions that are happening. And I think the really important thing to watch as we move out of COVID, or as we hopefully move out of COVID in the next 6 months or a year, is are those trends just short-term things that happen because of COVID, or will they turn into longer-term trends? Will customers want more packaging on their food and their groceries because there's a increased perception of food safety with that food? What's going to happen to work travel afterwards? And then more generally, where sustainability sits in the retailers' key priority list. So I think it's probably too early to say whether COVID has been a net positive or a net negative in a sustainability sense. But I think there's a few key trends that are playing out that we're keeping an eye on and that we need to keep tracking.
Bruno, what are you seeing as the trend as far as sustainability is concerned?
Well, I look at sustainability. There's no doubt that boards have been distracted by COVID, right? It's had their heads spinning because of so many changes and so many things that they've had to deal with, everything from health and hygiene to cost of doing business, JobKeeper and everything else. But I think clearly in my mind, boards are recognising that sustainability isn't something that you just start and stop, right? Because if you're talking about sustainability, you're talking about long-term improvements, which, has everything from they have to invest in order to drive sustainability. They have to bring their staff along the journey around why they're doing it and what it is that they're trying to achieve. And also in a lot of cases, if you look at it, they have to start looking at their business partners, whether that's their competitors or their business partners. So I think there are two things. I definitely agree with Alec that they're being distracted and diverted, but I also think that they recognise that they have to do something around sustainability to remain competitive and to remain with the marketplace. So I think they're going to have to quickly start looking back at it and go, what are we doing and how quickly can we move?
Pat, in your business development role, are you seeing any pressure or any change in the way that clients are looking at the sustainability question?
Not really. No, I haven't noticed that kind of change. I think from a customer point of view, during a time of crisis, maybe the priority of how much value is sustainability to them, as opposed to the right price to be able to feed their families, for example. So the economic impact that there is there. From a packaging point of view, to Alec's point, there's been a shift in the way people are consuming. So if you take chocolate, for example, I would imagine that impulse is significantly down. So rather than buying your to-go chocolate little bars, but more family packs are being bought because the way they're consuming. So while the product is still there and they still have the chocolate, the packaging around that has to be drastically changed and potentially impacting the wastage of that packaging and the sustainability with it.
Was there any connection or obvious connections, Pat, between the artificial intelligence and sustainability?
I think they're interlinked. I mean, I think AI is basically optimizing things. So when you're optimizing, there's less wastage and it's an opportunity for businesses to reduce their footprint on the earth. So rather than sending 1,000 shirts to every store, I kind of want to tailor and go, well, I want to send these stores more and these stores less because that's what they need. So being able to forecast that demand intertwines with the sustainability bit.
What about you, Alec? Are you seeing the need in your role as a sustainability person to bring artificial intelligence into the process?
Yeah, I think there's growing applications for artificial intelligence, for machine learning, and for other types of new technology in the energy and waste and sustainability space. We're seeing some pretty interesting startups, especially in the US, come out with different applications of technology that will, if they're scalable and able to be commercialized, will revolutionize some of these things that we're doing in the sustainability space. There's startups in the US that are trying to use cameras and artificial intelligence to identify everything that's going in a bin. So for me, working in a head office of a large retailer, I can see what every store is putting in the bin. I can correct the behavior of bad stores and we can encourage good stores. Whereas previously, what's going in the bin is kind of a black box. We don't really know what's happening there. Similarly, in the energy space, applications of technology around demand response, around optimizing energy usage, refrigeration, energy consumption and stuff like that are coming online very quickly or are improving very quickly. So I think for the world to solve the climate change challenge and sustainability challenges more generally, and specifically for retailers who operate, large footprints, are large energy consumers, are large waste producers, AI and new technology is going to have to play a role to optimize what we're doing, to reduce wastage, and then to really make sure what we're doing in stores is as sustainable as possible.
Bruno, you mentioned the other day, or made a comment about the Aldi move to put solar panels on all of their roofs. Do you see this as a single one-off thing, or is it something that a lot of retailers are going to start to think about?
I think technology is going to keep changing. So as it changes, it opens up, as Alec just mentioned, opportunities for new entrants or new ideas or new ways of doing things. I was just thinking as we were chatting just then, something like traveling for our merchandisers, for example. We're using technology now to train the people because we're having to move them from being specialists to more generalists so that a person can attend stores and cover more, if you like, merchandising skills than they used to, right? Just a simple thing such as that. So how do we train them faster? How do we train them differently so that we can skill them up? So I think you're going to see, as technology continues to evolve, you're going to see organisations having to move just as quickly. If not, their competitor or new entrants will see them, go out of business. So I think you are going to see a lot more of that, Keith.
Pat, you made a very, very good presentation in the Joeberry Award finals on artificial intelligence. Looking at artificial intelligence separately, where is it in terms of the immediate future, and is it likely to impact our understanding of sustainability?
I mean, I think with our AI developing and coming into more of a growth period and the cost of technology going down, to Alec's point about being able to measure those bins, it gives you a greater piece on transparency in what's actually going on. And even the shift from working from home now, your work has become digitalized. And once the work and your output and your input is all digitalized, it's data. So you can actually start applying more and more AI to it. Typically, the most vulnerable, I think, to the shift in AI will be the white collar jobs, the algorithms. Take a bank with a home loan, and a great algorithm will be able to outpace a human. It'll take some time still until we're completely automating blue collar, which is typically the most put in the media and everything like that.
Going back to the sustainability and really the general topic that we wanted to discuss today was sustainability post-COVID. What, Alec, do you see as the priorities for sustainability from now on?
I think climate change will become front of mind again. Obviously, we've seen retailers, even during this COVID period, pay a lot of attention to it. Aldi's announcement a couple of weeks ago being the most notable example. So I think decarbonizing our energy grid and what role retailers can play in that, both in terms of the rooftop space that they have for rooftop solar and stuff like that, but then also in terms of the buying power that they have to sign, power purchase agreements and, underwrite the building of larger scale wind farms and solar farms. That'll be priority number one. But I think obviously as we move out of COVID, there will be some longer term economic ramifications. And I think people's sustainability will play a really important role in that. Making sure that we as retailers are getting food to people that they need at a price point that they can afford, and really looking after the Australian community. I think there will be that will become a really big focus in the months and years, even after we get a vaccine for COVID.
Bruno, what's your take on post-COVID as far as sustainability is concerned?
Yeah, I sort of thought about it, and I thought the overall mindset of everybody post-COVID has changed, right? There's no doubt in my mind that health, family, communities, transient workforces, they're just some of the mindsets that have changed, right? So I think taking your point, Alec, I think the economy is in for a hard time, right? People are going to have less disposable income, and they're going to be far more choosy. So if there's a choice to be made around sustainability where, it's going to cost a lot more, they're just not going to go for it, right? However, if sustainability has delivered a cost advantage, and an example of that was the Aldi saying they're putting solar panels because it's going to enable them to sell the groceries cheaper, right? Then they're going to buy into it a lot more. So I think it's going to get back to the boards of different companies to really be clear what it is that they're trying to do. Are they trying to win the consumer's loyalty? Are they trying to get a price differentiation? Or are they actually caring about the long-term environment? And depending on where they sit with those decisions, Keith, I think they've got to be really, really clear as to why they're doing it.
I think that's a really good point around the cost and the benefits, the financial benefits of sustainability. For years, sustainability was seen as an additional cost, and it sort of created a premium product or a premium category. But now what we're seeing is, the cost of building solar is cheaper than, coal and, other types of fossil fuel powered power plants. And I think that's going to be a really important factor in accelerating the transition of our energy grid. But also, if we look at waste and recycling, now in every state, the state governments put taxes on landfill, making landfill the most expensive disposal option. And so for retailers who are trying to manage their waste budget, it actually makes financial sense to be more sustainable and encourage more recycling. And I think now sustainability it's less and less seen in conflict to profitability and in conflict to the right financial decision. And more it is going to be the right financial decision, regardless of the environmental benefits. So hopefully across the retail industry and across Australia more generally, we start seeing organizations that didn't have sustainability front of mind making the sustainable choice for financial reasons. And hopefully that sees an acceleration in the trends towards a more sustainable economy that we're starting to see.
We're in a situation where we've got a whole lot of other changes going on, and this isolation, the work from home, changes in the leadership processes, disruption to a lot of parts of our working lives. What roles do you think will be the sought after roles when the focus comes back to sustainability and technology post COVID? Pat, how do you see that?
Well, I think with that resurgence and the growth of AI coming through, it's going to be less about being able to complete a job, but how do you work with data to complete it better? So it comes down to skill sets. Are they data savvy, critical thinking, knowing how to test hypotheses with AI, knowing what questions you can ask the data to improve? And that's something at work that we challenge ourselves on. We, as Bruno would probably find similar, we have a lot of data that we're collecting while we're out there. How do we do it better, more effectively, more efficiently to drive a better outcome?
Bruno?
Yeah, I think when I think of AI, I think there's a lot of opportunities with tailoring or personalization, forecasting. Those sorts of things are going to be really, really important. So I think there's opportunities there. The other bit that I was thinking about when I was thinking about the whole going back to work, even though one of the things that we've seen is B2C has rocketed, right? Online has rocketed through, but there's still 83% of the sales are still going to be in bricks and mortar over the next, in 2022. So we happen to be in that retail sector where you're always going to be selling to another human being, right? So I still think that we're in a good position as far as I'm concerned from a retail perspective. I think there's going to be more government money spent on infrastructure. And then there's the AI piece, which is all around forecasting, personalization, everything else. So I think there's still a whole lot of opportunities. That'd be the areas I'd be thinking of.
Alec?
I think there'll be plenty of opportunity throughout retail, but I guess I'm interested to see how we exit the COVID period. if we do get a vaccine by Christmas, as you know, we're all hoping, and things may revert back to normal relatively quickly. And some of the trends that we're talking about, the increasing adoption of AI and machine learning, the increased focus on sustainability, everything sort of may revert back to pre-COVID. But I think there's another scenario where this COVID period could really drag for a year, 2 years. And if that's the case, some of the trends that we're starting to see, you know, we've touched on the acceleration of online sales and, you know, the increased working from home for a lot of a lot of people. If we're locked down and if we're in a COVID situation for another couple of years, I think the acceleration we see of those trends will just continue to accelerate. And I think the retail landscape that we exit may be very different. Customer behaviors may have permanently shifted, and, you know, supply chains may have permanently shifted if this takes another year, 18 months for us to exit. So in some ways, what I hope is that we can return to normal, but in the back of my mind, I think we may have a long way to go, and some of these trends may be playing out for a long time to come.
Yeah, just on that second scenario where you're looking at potentially it is longer, more staggered, little waves in between, that's where an opportunity for AI is to come in handy. So when the first hit came, you know, AI works on historical data in immense amounts, and this is a once in a lifetime, at least of this size and scale, opportunity that came. So being able to then learn from that, and now we're better at distribution and how do you adapt your supply chain, how to isolate stock, how to deal with a micro cluster happening, how to optimize your truck space. So we're getting better at all that, and it's made us, I think, more agile. So should it be leading within the next year or two and prolonged, I think AI will come as an opportunity to better serve that.
And I like the fact, Alec, you know, I'm in charities and everything else and events and those sorts of things. I like the fact that, you know, you're highlighting the importance that there's no guarantee that COVID's going to disappear in December, right? And I think, you know, there's a whole lot of the community that have got this desire forefront in their mind, and it's clouding the reality of it. You know, we're not through this by a long shot, and the longer it takes, the more new habits that we've developed, and you know, change of needs or you know, whether that's physical, mental, or whatever. So I think that's a really, really key point for us to keep forefront in our mind. We're not out of this wood by a long shot.
Let me just move you then across to talking about the career development and roles that people can take, how to develop yourself within the COVID environment, and look at the things that may come up, roles that might not exist now but may exist in a year or two's time. What are the things that young people should be doing now to get themselves out of a cloud, if you like, and become more exposed within their businesses? What can they do to advance their careers?
Well, I think the first thing we have to say is sign up for the 2021 Joe Berry Award and throw their hat in the ring.
What a setup.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, this is just me speaking personally. For me, I think I am doing all I can to embrace the uncertainty that, you know, we work in this incredibly essential field of retail, and retail isn't going anywhere. If anything, COVID has shown us that retail is one of the most important industries when, you know, the societies get locked down. We're an essential service. We deliver much needed goods to customers. So retail isn't going anywhere. But what retail will look like in 5 and 10 years is highly uncertain, and where the jobs growth will come in the industry is highly uncertain. So for me, it's about trying to learn as much as I can, not just about my role and my little niche within the business, but about retail more generally. And importantly, some of these trends that we're talking about, AI and stuff like that, what that will mean for retail, and what that's meant for retailers overseas who are perhaps a little bit more advanced on the journey of embracing this technology. because the roles will change. The industry will still be there, but the roles that are there are currently pretty uncertain. So I think embracing the uncertainty, learning as much as I can, and for any young people entering the 2021 Joe Berry Award.
Yeah, I like what you said there around learning more about the business, not just your silo. I think one of the challenges from working from home is the business visibility. Now, you can get stuck within your little team, or maybe you're just your direct manager. So it's hard to have that impact and be able to meet other people, particularly seniors within the business, if you're not physically there. You can't exactly just call them out of the blue just to chat. So learning more about the business, and if there's any cross-functional teams forming, I know businesses are taking that on more to handle specific challenges, to put your hand up and communicate and say you're interested. And again, joining Joe Berry Award 2021, November 1st.
Bruno, you've had the opportunity now to judge both essays and finalists in the Joe Berry Award. As an employer, what does it mean?
Look, it means a lot. I mean, firstly, one of the things whenever I read the essays, I learn a lot, right? And I'm taking back to everybody talking about the constant need to learn. I think the most important thing that people should be thinking about is we've got to have a sponge mindset, and we've got to be willing to learn off every single person. It's not the person above you, it's the person below you that's, far more in touch with what's happening in the marketplace. And the one thing that I'm identifying is that change is constant. So if you're not willing to be learning continuously, and we're finding that information's more freely available, training is becoming more readily available wherever you are. So success doesn't belong to the brightest person, it probably belongs to the most tenacious person, right? And quite often the missing piece for me is that people are not clear about what goal that they've set themselves, right? They haven't sat there and said, well, where am I going to be in 5 years' time? Because we all sit there and go, 5 years is just gone, drop of a hat, right? So I think going back to your point, whether COVID's gone within this period, whether AI, sustainability, it's just having a mindset that you got to keep, things are changing and you've got to keep moving with it. And you've got to have clear goals as to where you're going, because once you do that, then you're on the path.
The next podcast in the Joe Berry series will focus on the retailer's perspective of COVID disruptions with Bernie Brooks AM and Anthony George. Are retailers making measurable moves to adjust to business into the new world? The 35th Joe Berry Award 2021 opens on November 1st, but you can pre-register from the beginning of October through our website, joeberryaward.com.au. Alec, Pat and Bruno, thank you very, very much. This has been a remarkably good podcast for us, and it will certainly form one of the key topics available to entrants for this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Keith.